This is the brand new Specialized Diverge 4. I've been riding this bike for a few weeks and I'm going to tell you what I think about it. It's got wider tyre clearance, increased frame storage, UDH compatibility and an update to the futureshock, but there's one fatal flaw with the spec that makes it quite frustrating to ride. So, headline stats of this bike. This is the Diverge 4 Expert. It's a Fact 9R carbon frame with a SRAM rival E1 Axis drivetrain and Roval Terra C carbon wheels. It's the middle of the range model from Spec and it's priced at £5,249, €6,299 or $5,999.99. I'll dive into the full specs later on, but first, what's it like to ride? The top line is that this bike is really fun to ride. Specialized have made some tweaks to the geometry that make it really confidence inspiring, but also nice and responsive and lively. Specialized have slackened the head tube to increase the trail and also increased the chainstay length by 5mm to 430mm, so the whole wheelbase is longer. The reach has also been increased too, on this 54cm by 4mm, with progressive reach increases throughout the size run. You can find info on the full geometry update as well as a complete in-depth written review of this bike over on BikeRadar.com. As with the last few generations of Specialized gravel bikes, the longer reach is then paired with a shorter stem to keep the handling responsive. I was expecting an 80mm stem like the one I've got here to feel very twitchy, but it was actually absolutely fine. When I heard about the longer wheelbase, I was anticipating a slightly more sluggish ride, but in practice it just means that it's dead stable when you're sending it down loose technical terrain. It feels stable on the road too, but the position is quite upright. These Adventure Gear hover bars are pretty wide and they have a 20mm rise in them, which paired with the high stack height and the futureshock make for a pretty upright front end. This took a bit of getting used to on the road, but off-road it makes a lot more sense. When you point the bike downhill, your weight stays pretty planted in the middle of the bike and you don't feel like you're getting thrown over the front wheel. Again, this is super confidence inspiring. Now, onto the USP of the Diverge, the futureshock. The Diverge has seen an update across the range to the futureshock 3, which has been carried over from the Roubaix SL8. This Diverge 4 Expert comes with a futureshock 3.2, which isn't adjustable. So this might be an unpopular opinion, but I really didn't feel that much of a benefit. I've never ridden a futureshock before, but the 20mm of travel didn't feel particularly noticeable at the front of this bike. I could see it working, and no doubt it offers some comfort benefits, but it isn't as standout as I expected. On my own gravel bike, a Crux, I run 50mm tyres with inserts, so I'm quite used to the really low tyre pressures and the comfort they offer. And it could be that I didn't notice the futureshock as much as a rider who's used to narrower, firmer tyres might, but I certainly wasn't as wowed by it as I was expecting. I would have loved to be able to lock it out and see if I could really isolate the ride feel, but this unadjustable one obviously doesn't allow that. Personally, I think on a bike of this price, I would have liked to see the 3.3 adjustable futureshock, which was the case with the previous Diverge Expert, so this is a little bit of a downgrade. One minor annoyance I found is that this plastic top cap underneath the futureshock has a little bit of play in it and it rattles when you're riding. It's not a massive issue on trails where it's drowned out by trail noise, but it's a little bit annoying when it's quieter. One of the key changes to the new Diverge, and one that I'm really excited by, is the increased tyre clearance. This bike is rated for a 50mm tyre with 7mm of clearance on all sides, or a 2.2-inch mountain bike tyre with 4mm of clearance. That's pretty cool and keeps the bike bang on trend with racy and adventurous gravel riders alike. To keep the geometry of the bike consistent, Specialized have then dropped the bottom bracket to offset the increased ride height with wider tyres. But there's a problem. On to my number one gripe with this bike. The tyres Specialized have spec'd on all the new Diverges are 45mm wide. 45mm is plenty wide enough, and for a lot of riders, probably the perfect width for gravel. But when combined with the updated geometry that's dropped the bottom bracket to offset 50mm or wider tyres, the ride height is really low. In practice, this means that I found myself clipping my pedals on even pretty mellow trails. It was really, really annoying, and if I was going to buy a Diverge myself, I'd swap them out for a 50mm or maybe even wider, like a 2.2-inch Stryer, straight away to really get the most out of the bike. It does baffle me slightly that Specialized would redesign the geometry around a 50mm tyre and then fit a 45, and having to spend £100 or more straight out the box is a little bit annoying. Specialized describes the Diverge 4 as the ultimate getaway vehicle, and as you can see from all the mounting points on the frame, you can carry pretty much anything. There are mounting points here, 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 and here. And you can fit mudguards on a rack too. On top of all that, you also get the new SWAT 4.0 frame storage, which has a wider opening. This also now carries over to the alloy frame, which Specialized claims is the first and currently only alloy gravel bike with internal frame storage. Whilst it wasn't included on my test bike, Specialized has confirmed that the SWAT kit is included on consumer models. You also get the future stem with compatibility for a neat integrated computer mount, but you don't get the mount itself. Whilst you can run a standard computer mount on these bars, I'd have really liked to see Specialized include the proprietary one out the box. Whilst we're on the topic of value, this expert model is priced in the UK at £5,249, which is about £250 cheaper than the previous generation. But that older Diverge included the adjustable futureshock, so this is a little bit of a downgrade in that regard. The wheels come from Specialized's own wheel brand, Roval, in the form of these gravel-specific Terra C wheels with a hooked 25mm wide rim. These fit the Specialized tyres nicely, and the whole system is really easy to set up tubeless with the supplied valves. The drivetrain is SRAM rival axis, utilising the new UDH Compatibility. This is a real highlight of the spec sheet for me, and the group set worked flawlessly throughout testing. The gear ratios are pretty generous, with a 10-46 tooth cassette at the back and a 40 tooth chainring at the front. And the ergonomics of the new shifters on the rival group set are really comfortable. The brakes were also exceptional, a big upgrade over the previous generation rival. In terms of weight, this 54cm model came in at 9.2 kilograms. I didn't love the Specialized power saddle on the bike. I've tried it before and I just don't get on with its short-nosed design. I do think it's a slightly odd spec choice, being designed for quite aggressive road bike positions, but that's personal preference and it might work for you. I really enjoyed my time testing the Diverge, but I wish Specialized had made the most of their increased tyre clearance when speccing the bike. This would solve the issue I had with clipping my pedals and also allow you to get much more out of the bike as it was designed to be used. However, this is a relatively easy fix and can be rectified without too much fuss. Value-wise, the price point of this build is a bit higher than some of its competitors. For example, Canyon's Grail CF SLX8 Axis is priced at £5,149, and that features SRAM's next tier up force group set and a power meter. Overall, I like the Diverge a lot. It feels equally at home on technical single track as it does on wide open gravel roads. Specialized say this is the perfect bike for gravel racing, adventure riding or bike packing, and I'd say that's pretty on the money. But what do you think of the new Specialized Diverge 4? Let me know in the comments down below, and while you're down there, remember to subscribe, hit like and hit that little bell icon so that you get notified every time we upload a new video.